The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
All right, Mike Clowney, if you would open us up with a statement, heading back to your neck of the woods in general and playing the Newberry Wolves.
Newberry, we are heading back to my neck of the woods. I know my mom will be all fired up about us coming down that way, but it's always fun to go down to Newberry and play. You know, we used to call it in the graveyard down there, and it's always a good environment. And so we're looking forward to getting on the bus, going down, spend some time together on Friday, and playing a good football game on Saturday.
Really a challenging place to play. You kind of allude to it. There have been Final Four and national quarterfinal Carson-Newman teams that have gone to Newberry and taken it on the chin. What makes that environment, such the field, especially to Todd and Ike, such a difficult place to play?
Yeah, I think they do a good job as far as their fan base. I mean, they're talented year in and year out. So I mean, anytime you go down there, you're going to play a talented football team. You know, and I think it's kind of like what we alluded to before. You know, in Carson-Newman, when Carson-Newman shows up, you know, it's a big football game, and you know they work to respond to that.
How do you avoid letting the Lenoir-Rhyne loss beat you twice?
I think for us is to continue to keep our heads up, continue to keep our spirits, continue to talk about the things that, you know, we did well, talk about the things that we need to get corrected, you know, being able to go out to practice today and, you know, create the energy that we need to kind of continue to move forward. You know, that's one thing we talked to our guys about, you know, in a meeting yesterday. You know, we've got 4 football games that we've got promised to us right now, and they're going to be best football games we go play. One way or another, they're going to be the best football games we go play. You know, and that just means from an effort standpoint, from, you know, us, you know, displaying who we really are on the inside. You know, essentially when you're here, it's a character check, and then they always tell you what's on the inside eventually going to come out on the outside, and so, you know, we're going to press them and see what we get.
You look back to Saturday, and obviously a lot of frustrations from that loss, but upon digesting film, were there some silver linings that perhaps weren't apparent when things were happening on Saturday?
There were. You know, especially from a defensive standpoint, you know, you go look at a lot of guys that, you know, we got in position to make plays, and unfortunately we didn't make them. You know, like Callum Clements is a freshman safety. You know, he's one that really sticks out to me. A couple times he comes down, you know, we've got the hole way too wide. We've got to hit it tighter and close it up to give him a little bit, you know, better situation to play in there. But, like, you know, he goes and he fits the tackle up and just doesn't bring his hips, doesn't bring his feet, and he just kind of falls off of it. You know, 2 years from now, I think that kid makes that play. You know, if he does what we coach him to do and he goes in the weight room, he lifts and runs. Ja'Cory Davis, you know, you watch inside, you know, against an older line, you know, be able to get some movement, to work to get off. You know, Ja'Cory Long over here on the sideline, you know, he turns and runs, you know, back out, makes a play, he knocks the ball loose. You know, the two that we were able to knock loose, unfortunately, went out of bounds. But some of that was good. You talked about Jackson on the interception. You know, he's working to cover his guy. He comes off and goes back inside and makes a play. So when you look at it, there are things there that were encouraging. You know, overall, you know, frustrating. We still, you know, up front, like, you know, with a young offensive line, you know, like, you know, it really showed in that football game, and we've got to continue to be gritty and grow there.
I think it probably says something, too, about the offensive line, that because of injuries, because of, you know, things that you've had to shuffle, you haven't started the same people in the same position in a game. You've had 6 different iterations that you've had to throw out there in 6 straight weeks. That's probably pretty difficult to get some continuity in that regard.
Yeah, it's when you're just watching the game, there are a lot of things that you don't see. You know, it's just like we'll go in and I'll talk about, you know, on some of Monday, like really being proud of the offensive line because of what you talked about. You know, we've got freshmen playing there, and we're moving them around. You know, this week you're at guard, you're at tackle, you know, and in the middle moving, you know, guy to center. And we've had to do so much with them. And the thing that makes you proud of those guys is, like, they don't bat an eye. You know, they just go do what you ask them to do. And, you know, are they doing it, you know, the way that we would like to see it done and moving people the way we would like to see them move all the time? No. But you can tell that the heart's there. And if you get that part of it, then the talent and all that stuff, we'll be able to develop that.
I think a lot about a Marshall women's basketball team I covered that literally lost their second through their seventh leading scorer, and they were counting on a girl who was their eighth leading scorer who averaged 3 points a game to go out and deliver 12. Well, that's a tough expectation, and when she goes out and scores six. You need to be happy with that.
She's done better. She's improved. She tried to respond to the call, and so that's what you ask guys to do. You throw the challenge out there, like we need you, like you said, we need you to get 12, and you're pulling for 12, and you're fighting for 12, and you're scratching and clawing for 12. But sometimes you get 6, and then you hope the next week you can get 9, and then eventually you really want to hit that mark and get to the 12 that you need to get done what you need to get done. But it is a process. A lot of times we want it to be magic, and we want to snap our hands and it happen right now. But we don't grow up overnight. It takes a little bit at a time, but we have to continue to moving in the right direction.
Probably goes back to the old adage too. The only thing consistent about youth is how inconsistent it is. How do you work through the potential frustrations with? All right, you had really 4 straight weeks of growth, and here was a setback.
Yeah, I think we had 4 weeks of growth, and that's what we challenged them on. And and then like this week comes up, we played a really good football team. Sometimes you hate saying that, but it's true. We played a good football team, and you want to be good enough to match that. But there's still some things I think when you look at this film that we still can continue to grow on. We can continue to challenge our guys. I think in order to figure out where you're at, every now and then you have to run up on a test, a real test to figure out exactly where things are. And it can be frustrating, but the thing that you have to do is if you figure the answers and you figure out the answers that you don't know, and you have to go back and you have to learn the information. You have to continue to study for the test until you get to the point where you can pass it.
Defense has been on the field for 170-plus plays, almost 80 minutes football the last 2 weeks. How much of a challenge is that right now for your staff?
That's the amazing thing. I know defensive players get frustrated, but I'm really proud of our coaches defensively. They've done a good job of convincing those guys or selling those guys on the fact that you can control what you can control. As a defensive coach, and this is the thing that you get into, and it's always weird. I told one offensive coach, on offense, if it's not going good, you get to play 3 plays and punt. Defensively, you don't get that option. You have to stay out there and you have to continue to fight. And so there's 2 ways to respond, and you either continue to fight or you continue to fold. And I think, that's one thing with giving up the points early in the game last week. It was frustrating. And then we're getting the ball in good field position and we can't put the ball in the end zone. The offense got more frustrating than defense because they want to finish those drives. But, defensively, there was a point in time to where it was frustrating. But I thought they came back and they continued to kind of, continue to fight, continue to play with pride is really what it boils down to.
How much of maybe the frustration that you're referring to can be alleviated by the offense, perhaps finishing some of those drives and not putting as much pressure on the defense?
Yeah, I think it's always encouraging to go on the field after something good's happened. It's just like in that game, if we could have kicked a couple field goals and put points on the board, but you want to go win the game, regardless of the situation. That's the fighting mentality that we're gonna have, and so it's just you get stuck with 0 because we're gonna continue to keep punching and keep fighting, and that's the mentality I'm a coach with. That's the mentality I expect players to play with, and so that's kind of what we got to do. I don't think our kids are not trying not to score. It's just, unfortunately we continue to do something to kill ourselves. The most frustrating one was getting the ball on the 8 and not being able to punch it in. That was probably the backbreaker for us offensively that kind of put us in a situation to where we were the kids were just frustrating, really offensively and defensively. And so that's no fun. We've got to find a way to finish it. And then we get excited. We got a drive going late in the game, and we feel, all right, well, we'll be able to kind of, finish this one, and we fumble the football. We continue to find a way to shoot ourselves in the foot over and over and over again.
How encouraging is it, though? Because it feels like the last few weeks, and even LR, they don't have answers for your kick return game. LR was trying to kick the ball to the left, to the right, short, here and there, and it just felt like no matter who touched the ball, you were getting a big return. How encouraging is that for that special teams unit to continue to provide a little bit of an upper shorthanded in some of these teams.
You know, that was one thing that was unique was just to watch, you know, Mike over on the sidelines. Like, you know, you could literally see them trying to figure out, like, what they were going to do. But I think it's a testament to those guys on that unit. And I think, you know, that shining light is really what you want the entire team to, at some point, begin to look like. Because there's 11 guys out there that believes that every time that ball's kicked in the air, like, they're going to find a way to score. They're going to find a way to be productive. And then, like, you know, we got to the point to where we just kind of declined the out of bounds because, like, they believe in what we're doing. And you can see, like, one thing that's special, like we talked about Dudley kind of having the success last week, and the ball's kicked short. He can't get there, but by the time we feel the ball, like, he's out in front blocking. Like, and just to watch, you know, EJ got a big block for him at Catawba. And then to be able to watch him get a block to spring EJ, and then actually at the end, he's still downfield pushing to help get another 3 yards. And, like, that's what you want this team to look like from an entire unit standpoint. And so I think, you know, those guys, man, it's just I think they brought a great spark to, you know, what hasn't been, you know, the most fun season. But, like, you know, they give you something to look forward to every time the ball's kicked. We just got to stop letting people kick it so much.
Let me ask about what you mentioned there with E.J. Davis. He told me the other day that he went to Antonio Goss's office and said, hey, I want to play. How do I get in on special teams? And at the end of the game, he started to get some reps there at running back. How important is it right now to see some of these guys have that mentality of, I just got to get on the field. It doesn't matter what position it is. I want to get on the field because maybe that shows the coaching staff that I earned time on the D-line or linebacker or running back or whatever position it may be.
I mean, he's one that I pointed out because it's just so, you know, he's been like that since he's been here. You know, he's had so many challenges. Like, you know, we played in spring. He didn't get to play because of COVID. He had a couple of issues that, you know, in the fall that kind of would take him in and out. But to watch his resilience as far as, like, I'm going to try to find a way to contribute. And the cool thing is, like, when you go watch him practice, you know, he practices that way. You know, and that's where for him, like, there's a couple little things that he's really got to, you know, do to help himself really kind of be like that premier guy. And but he has that capability. And so, but, like, the biggest thing with him, man, is his effort and his heart. Like, you can't ask for a better heart than the guy.
This week, going on the road, is there a benefit to being on the road, getting away from here after the loss last week?
I think you have to go and I think you have to respond either way. I think you have to put that one in. You know, a lot of times in coaching, you know, you take a film like that, and I even debated, like, you just, you know, back in the old days we had DVD and VHS, like, you just throw it in the trash and forget about it and move on. But there are things for us at this point that we need to fix. But, you know, at this point you really want to kind of same thing, be able to kind of trash it, you know, keep a little bit of that taste and fire so that you can go fight. But I don't think it matters, like, where you play. This team has done well on the road, you know, from a standpoint of, like, they're so new and so young that they actually get to spend time together and all together. And that's the best benefit that we have of being on the road. You know, a lot of times we're at home, you know, we come and practice Friday and everybody kind of still goes and does their routine. It's kind of like what you talk about with a family, you know, being able to sit down and eat dinner together as a family, you know, and that's what you get to do when you're on the road.
I know you're more focused on growing yourself than potentially doing the deep dive in on Newberry. But you do face, again, it feels like the SAC has transitioned a little bit from I won't call it pass happy, but this has been a more run-dominant conference this season than it probably has in years past. Dre Harris and Mario Anderson, great 1-2 punch with a mobile quarterback and a running back that gets the job done. What do you see out of those two?
You know, two really good athletes. I mean, Dre, the quarterback, he was a phenomenal athlete. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when you look at the runs and you look at the rushes in the league overall, you know, so many of the quarterbacks are now starting to kind of contribute to what's happening there. And that takes like I say, it does some things to you defensively to kind of remove a couple guys from the box. You know, like, how do you respond to him to make sure that, you know, he doesn't hurt you? It's just like Catawba, you know, their quarterback, you know, just kind of drop backs to throw the football, and nothing's there, and, you know, you wind up watching him run over and over and over for yardage. And Newberry's that same situation. And so we've got to make sure we continue to do a good job up front. We've got to work to change the line of scrimmage. They've got big guys, but we've got to work to change the line of scrimmage, and we've got to do a good job of keeping gaps tight, fitting where we need to be. We can't play with high eyes, which was one of the things that got us in trouble this weekend, is just kind of losing things and not really seeing exactly what we need to see. And so we've got to do a better job this week of seeing that, running to the football, and playing with a, team mentality.
Feels like they've got some guys who have been there for an eternity, especially the receiver. Bobby Irby, I think, was playing when Ken Sparks was still coaching here. That feels like Bryson Woodruff has been around for a minute. Give me a semblance of the talent that their receiving core has and what that enables Harris to be able to do.
Because it forces you not to be able to focus on him. You can't. You have to cover those guys, and he's a good enough passer that he can get the ball. They do a good job of making plays for him, and they just. When that happens, you have those guys out on the perimeter, and you have him that can run, and so it's not like you're going to sit and just lock them up all day and play man. So we've got to be able to do a couple of different things and then still know where he's at, so we can't put two guys on the quarterback because we've got to deal with these guys in the back. Can't put extra guy in the back because we've got to know what's happening up front with the quarterback. And so it's a pretty good challenge.